it'll end up on the YouTube.
Hey, Cheryl,
Yes.
it's Sunny, not Ann Simpson. We
Okay.
got to go through this every time.
Yeah, let's get you change. SUNNY, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So I want to welcome everybody to today's Intentional Aging program. And today we're talking about brain health and aging. I would like to begin by acknowledging that the lands on which we live and gather are the appropriated homelands of Indigenous peoples. We want to express our deepest respect to those peoples, past and present, for their care of these lands throughout the generations. For those of you that are new to the program, and I know there are quite a few new faces, we had a new updated flyer go out for this month's program, and I know it also hit the paper. So I wanted to give a little brief introduction today. Some of you have been coming for a little while, some of you are new. But this is an ongoing monthly series exploring a wide variety of topics related to aging that include things like a mixture of presenters, book discussions, activities, and more. For those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Cheryl Martin. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the community outreach librarian for the North Olympic Library System. While I do not claim in any way to be an expert on any of these topics, I am myself a lifelong learner. I returned to graduate school at 50 years of age to get my MLS. And I also have a community health information specialist certification from the Medical Library Association, which really just helps me be aware of how to find information more than anything. And so if you have a question on something, I often can find the path to get you that information. I have also worked for the library for more than 8 years and have been offering library programs for much of that time. The program itself, because there's been a little confusion on cancellation and things I wanted to clear up. Program is set up that if you register for any one of the dates, it automatically enrolls you in all of the upcoming sessions. This keeps you from having to register every month, and it allows me to use the same Zoom link for all of them. I discovered a little glitch where if you go to cancel yourself, it wants to take you back to the first one and won't let you do it. And I think I found my workaround, but if you do decide not to attend future programs and you want me to cancel your registration, you can always email me directly. You do not have to cancel it if you have to miss one or a couple. I really wanted this to be something where you can attend all of them, or you can pick and choose the ones that you feel are most relevant to your interests, concerns, etc. And you can reply to any of those direct emails where you see my name on it, and I can assist with those cancellations. If you have registered for the program and did not get automated reminders, there is an opt-in that you need to complete. And so check your spam folder. You generally have 72 hours for that. But if you're not seeing those automated reminders, reach out and let me know, and I can resend that. Let's see. What's my last little piece? Before and after each program, I send a follow-up email with the topics, resources, and if it is recorded, not all of them are, and then I'll include the recording. If there is a handout, book, or supply to borrow or keep, some are available for that, that information will be included on those emails. They are separate from the automated reminders, and I include the Zoom information there as well. Though not on the library's website quite yet, I wanted to tell you about the next 3 programs that I have lined up for the next couple of months. So in February, we have Eva Bennett. She is the statewide health insurance benefit advisor. It's called SHEBA is for short. She is a volunteer coordinator for Clallam and Jefferson counties from the Olympic Area Agency on Aging. She will introduce what SHEBA services are, how to access them, and provide a brief overview of Medicare and discuss Medicare's preventive care services, healthcare services intended to promote your health and detect disease early. She is someone that is available to you at any time. You don't have to wait for a program like this to access those services. But she is eager to come and present to you guys. I will probably be sending her slides out in the week before the program. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to come with those in hand. Even if you feel like it might not quite be something you're concerned with, you might be surprised. She may present you as something that you weren't expecting. So I have also added an extra date between the February and March programs on March 1st. And we're going to have a presentation and discussion on nutrition as we age. And it's presented by two graduate students, Danny Beery and Victoria Jansen, who are in the University of Washington School of Public Health Nutritional Sciences program. And they're currently enrolled in a class called Nutrition Education, Principles and Practice course. And they're on the dietetics track, studying to become future registered dietitian nutritionists. On that note, any of these programs, if you have any questions you would like me to lob to the presenters before the programs start, that is useful, especially with that March 1st date. I'll be meeting with them Thursday to give them an idea of what we're most interested in hearing from them. I am asking for something on nutrition as we age, but really if you have specific questions or an area you're most interested in, please feel free to email me those and I'll make sure and pass those on to them. The March 15th date, many of you are probably familiar with local resident Katie Bowman, who is an author and an expert on movement. And she had a book come out in 2017 called Dynamic Aging. It is in the library's collection. It's also available through Overdrive. And she's going to provide an engaging and interactive presentation on dynamic aging. She'll discuss the difference between movement and exercise, how to fit more movement into the day, and how to think of movement as something each body part needs versus only the whole body. And all of her books, as I mentioned, are available through the library's catalog. I know I'm putting a lot up front today. I don't usually talk this long on this, but again, I know we're welcoming quite a few new faces today. Let's see. Before we dive into today's topics, I also want to introduce Adele, who is a public services specialist out in Column Bay. She has been my support person through this program and the Aging Mastery program we offered last spring as well. And this will be Adele's last day supporting us. She gets to retire at the end of this month. So I am going to miss her a lot. She's been a great help for this program. And next month, you'll meet Ellen, who works in SQUIM, and she'll be stepping in as my support person and second on this program as well. So thank you, Adele, for all your help. And
thanks, Cheryl.
Hopefully we'll see you just attending. So
you will.
All right. So last kind of housekeeping is breakout rooms. And if you're not familiar with breakout rooms, we do like to use those with smaller groups of 3 to 4 people to provide opportunities for conversation about the topics presented. I have to tell you, we have almost 30 people today, which is the most we've had show up. I have 86 people on the registration list. So if for some reason everybody decided to come on the same day, that's going to be a pretty big group and hard to manage individual conversation in the larger group. So those breakout rooms are super important, and really I want them to be a safe space for you guys to talk with each other. And just a small reminder that if you want to share something that was discussed in the smaller group by somebody else, just please making sure you have their permission to do so before doing that to the larger group. So that all being said, I'm done talking. I wish, but I'd like to get back to that icebreaker I had tried back in the first couple sessions called Rose, Bud, and Thorn. And this will get you into your first breakout room for the day. And so take a moment or two here to think about something that's really good and positive that's been happening in your life. Maybe something you're really looking forward to or anticipating. And then maybe there's something else that you're feeling some trepidation or concern about. And a reminder with these breakout rooms, no one is required to participate. You can exit the breakout room at any time, or you can also choose not to go into those. So Adele won't force people into rooms. You'll get a thing that'll pop up that you have to select to join. And you will be returned automatically at the end of that breakout room, and it gives you a 1-minute notification that the room is about to close. So I would say maybe Adele, while you're setting that up, if folks want to think about Rose, Bud, or Thorn, this one will take 5 minutes to jump in and have kind of that introduce yourself and have those quick conversations.
Okay, Cheryl, whenever you're ready.
I think you can go ahead and get it started.
Okay. Do you want me to stop recording or pause recording?
Yeah, you can. Had a wealth of science-based information on memory, aging, and things we can do to help maintain and support our brain health as we age. If you were not able to pick up a copy of the book, there are still a few copies left. Based on anybody attending today, if you have already gotten a copy from the library and haven't returned it, you may go ahead and keep it. And if you did not get a print copy yet and want one, email to me, and I am going to purchase a few more to cover those in attendance today. So there are
We get to keep it forever and ever. We get to keep it forever and ever. It's an excellent book. I'm so happy.
Yeah, right. Okay, so page 32 is the first one that I was hoping to have you guys talk about, and that is in the handout, and that's the self-assessment, worrying about your brain. So if you have had a chance to fill this out, you're a step ahead, and if you haven't had a chance, go ahead and take a minute or two to look at, where is it at? I gotta find the right page. Thought it was in this.
Oh,
Cheryl,
Yes.
Cheryl, one thing I noticed in all of this, they didn't really focus heavily on medications. And
No.
at older ages, the medications have the biggest impact on memory loss, normal memory loss, not dementia type memory loss.
Yeah,
Normal memory loss is very much medication. So go over your medication.
Step into that towards the end of her book, and then Lisa Genova's book also delves maybe a little deeper into the medication question. So I'm not seeing that one in the handout. I thought it was in there.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just pitch these questions in here instead. So are you worried about your memory more than other people think you need to be? So have you worried about your memory and had other people say, you're fine, don't worry about it? Things like, are you afraid of being perceived as dumb? Do you criticize yourself or your own memory? Do you feel physical symptoms of anxiety like a pit in your stomach or lightheadedness when you can't remember something? Has anyone ever said that you tend to criticize yourself? Do you avoid things that you fear might prove once and for all that you aren't good enough or smart enough? Do you avoid activities that remind you of your memory or thinking concentration challenges like reading? When you can't come up with the word you want, I just experienced that. Do you sometimes get flashes of catastrophic ideas or images like being wheeled into the nursing home? And so it's natural to have some anxiety about memory. And these are things that might indicate that you have like a heightened concern and worry about it that may or may not be founded in your actual symptoms. So definitely something to return to and thinking about that self-assessment. And when you answer those questions, something you can discuss with your care provider. So the better attention idea checklist is where I'd like us to jump to next. And that one I do believe is in here. That's, unless I'm not remembering myself. Well, there it is. Okay. So it looks like we are better attention checklist right here. This is a list of common recommendations for improving attention. So what I would suggest you do is look through that list. Think about some, are there things that you're already doing, things that you would like to do? And do you have anything that you're already doing that might not be on this list? So let's take a minute or two to think about that. And then we'll do a breakout room again. And what I'd like you to do is set your attention in intention, which is identifying things that you could do to help improve your focus and attention using that checklist idea or one that you have, and share that within your breakout rooms. Adele, let's give about 2 minutes. So at 11:38, push to the breakout rooms.
I don't know what you're going to get in 2 minutes.
2 to 3 minutes. Well, if folks haven't,
Yeah, I mean,
I've already looked at it, but
I don't communicate that quickly myself.
well, Well, I'll give you a few more than that. So we're thinking about looking at that checklist, ideas that on there that maybe you're already trying. If you have other ideas that you maybe would suggest others try, and think about what you might be able to do in the coming weeks, months to help improve your own attention. So Adele, if you want to give till 11:40, then we can give a few more minutes to give some time for that one. Cindy, yes, that is in the handout. It was the 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the seventh page in.
7th page in. Okay.
They didn't number the handout for me on that one. I'm going to go in and find.
What's the name of this one, Cheryl? The one we're going to deal with? Oh,
It's
Better
the Better
Attention.
Attention Idea Checklist, also page
Okay.
30 in the book.
got it. Thank you.
And the Lisa Genova book is still Alice, which was made into a feature film, if you're are familiar with that. And yeah, I had to look it up because I forgot. So chapter 3 in the book is memory in the brain, and she talks about something called WOPR, an evidence-based memory encoding treatment. And what that is it's a way of improving memory in people with mild to moderate memory declines. And it comes from a program called Ecologically Oriented Neurorehabilitation of Memory, a very big mouthful, developed by Anthony Stringer, a neuropsychologist at Emory University. And there's a 4-step method that she introduces here about how to help you form new memories using that acronym WOPR. And then if you're in the book itself, you'll see how she calls it Whopper. So you'll hear, if you're on the audiobook, have her refer to it as Whopper. That she takes that and has you answer questions in the workbook about each thing that she introduces. But let's overview really quick what Whopper is. The first thing is to write. So writing things down. We often expect too much of our memories and we get mad if we can't remember things. And it's really important because our memory is not perfect. And if we remembered everything we saw and did every day, our brains, I feel like my brain would explode, to be honest. There's just so much input all the time, especially in the present day. And so writing things down is an essential first step to memory enhancement. And you can use paraphrasing. There's some suggested techniques in there. The next step, the O in Whopper, is organize. So once you've taken some notes, going back and organizing the information you've written. If they're more narrative and not bullet points or a numbered outline, you can take a second pass and condense it a little bit. So first step is write, second is organize. The third is picture, and that's called making visual notes. So seeing information in your mind can be a very powerful memory strategy, and she reviews a little bit more on that. But if you can take a mental snapshot of the outline or bullets that you made in the organized step, you can see it hopefully inside your mind. And then she gives you an opportunity to draw a picture of that. And then the next one is rehearse. Don't forget that practice makes perfect. So the operative word being practice. So if you really want to remember something, the more you practice it, the better you will get at recalling it. So we talked briefly about memory in the brain, but she does introduce the differences between short-term memory and long-term memory. And so short-term memory is kind of a little different than what most people think about it. It's any memory that you remember for longer than 30 seconds is considered a long-term memory. So you might be thinking, wow, that's, you're saying that what I remember from the last paragraph is the same as what I learned in kindergarten, and essentially it's true. So in neuroscience, short-term memory is more of an attention skill than a memory skill. So now we actually call it, more common term is called working memory. So, and the next type of memory we're talking about is building long-term memory. So long-term memory is considered either explicit or implicit, and there's basically three types of long-term memory. The first is explicit, and that's the stuff you know, and you likely remember when you learned it because your learning itself was an event. Explicit learning is referred to as episodic, like an episode of your favorite TV show. These type of events are things you remember. It's also called declarative and semantic because it involves your memory for facts and information, things you would read in the paper, hear from a friend, or learn in school. Other two types of long-term memory are considered implicit. They develop and operate pretty much outside of our awareness. So you may not really know how or when an implicit memory was formed. One type is called procedural or muscle memory, like habits or riding a bike. The other type is your emotional memory. And there are three different parts of the brain, she mentions, that govern these three types of memory. So we're not going to dive deep into that right now, but just briefly talking about the difference between short-term and long-term memory. What I would like to move forward to is the chapter 4, which talks about cognitive reserve. So cognitive reserve describes the physical manifestations, kind of the what you need for a strong memory throughout your life. So, and brain plasticity, also called neuroplasticity, describes how you get in. And so we're going to dive into that a little bit. She introduces brain as the brain 401k. And so we're kind of investing in our brains. There is an assessing your brain 401k portfolio, which is on page 66 if you have the book, but I'm going to type out the things to think about here. So you're trying to get a baseline idea of what you feel like your 401k is for your brain. So the first thing is you're going to be rating these on a scale of 0 to 100. These are lifestyle areas, and you can take a brief note, and then when you move into this next breakout room, you'll have a chance to talk about this a little bit and maybe areas that you want to focus on. Maybe I'm not spending enough time on that particular area, and this would be a good place to do that. So the first one is physical activity. So again, thinking about these on a scale of 0 to 100 and how much of your portfolio is invested in that section. Next one is nutrition, stress management, learning new things, sleep, social support. Oh, sorry, misspell. I do that a lot with that particular word. My fingers are typing at different pieces. Disease and risk factor management. Okay, so, and I misspelled management there too on you, sorry. Okay, so what you're thinking about is, she calls cognitive reserve your brain's 401k account because it's quite literally your brain's retirement account. She's made it her professional mission to make cognitive reserve a household word, something you think about pretty much every day as you make countless choices. I want you to think about it in much the same way you think about your blood pressure, your weight, your cholesterol levels, and so forth. Why? Because you can control it. So, or you can, at least she puts a disclaimer that says you can control a decent amount of your cognitive reserve. So looking at those listed topics, thinking in terms of your personal brain 401k portfolio is like, how much effort are you giving for each of these categories? And are there any categories that you think you probably could shift and put a little more towards? She proceeds in this chapter to talk about some of the things that have some of the greatest impact on memory and on your health related to this. And they include hearing loss, obesity, uncontrolled high blood pressure, smoking, depression, physical inactivity, social isolation, diabetes, maybe your education level, and brain injury. So I believe in the next section, so I think, and because this is not in the handout, I'm going to go ahead and read through these. So if you have something handy to write some notes on, and then in your breakout room, if you have someone that has the book, they can help you recall the questions. So on page 71, this is the Brain 401k portfolio self-assessment. So the first question is, number one, I engage in physical activity, walking, jogging, dancing, and so forth, daily, 3 to 4 times a week, a few times a week, about once a week, once a month, or never. And you can put in your own response to that. Just think about how often you engage in physical activity. So that's question number one. Question number two is, I smoke, yes or no? Question number three, I have diabetes that I manage. Can be A, I don't have diabetes. I manage it very well, pretty well, not so well, or poorly. Number four, my job or life causes me to learn new things daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, never. And again, customize your responses to what you feel fits you. Number five, my stress level is totally managed because I meditate every day. Not so bad. I meditate a few times a week. Okay, I try to relax. And it doesn't have to be meditation. You can manage your stress any way that works for you. D, not bad. I chill with my friends over cocktails or a cup of coffee. E, my stress level is high. What does it feel like to relax? Question number 6 is regarding hypertension, whether you've ever had it, if you've not been diagnosed but maybe suspect it. Do you take blood pressure medication daily and keep an eye on your numbers? You take it but don't really know if it's working, or your doctor may have mentioned it to you but you don't really stick to your medication regimen. Number 7, my experience with depression is that I'm never depressed. Or B, I've had some trouble, but I'm working on it. I haven't felt blue in a while. C, I get depressed about once a year. Or D, have chronic depression. 8 is talking about, in my spare time, my hobbies are mostly, I'm not going to give you hers. I will leave it to you guys to fill in the things that you consider your hobbies. Her question 9 is, my social support network is supportive, stressful, not existent, maybe just for a little, she put drinking buddies because I think she geared this towards some 30s and 40s something in some of what she wrote, but just even, do you have people that you just very casually engage with versus very tightly supportive, I think is the difference we're looking for there. Question 10, how is your sleep? Is it great? Do you head hits the pillow when you're out for a solid 8? Is it just okay? Typically 7 to 8 hours with a few interruptions. Meh, I usually get up for about an hour or 2 each night. D, not great, I struggle. E, I sleep fine if I take something similar like Benadryl. And she does spend some time in the book talking about antihistamines and use of sleep aids. That if that is something that you're interested in and didn't get to that section, that's her 2 bits on it. But always with all of this, you want to talk with your care provider about what you choose to use and whether or not you take medications regarding that. 11 talks about my body mass, so talking about if you're in a healthy weight range. 12 is talking about your diet. how is your diet? Do you have a diet plan that you're comfortable with, your food choices, thinking in terms of that. And she includes a chapter that explores this. Again, anecdotal advice from one person who is not a dietitian, who was a neurologist. And so I encourage you to talk with your care provider about what is the best and most appropriate diet for you. Thinking about your hearing, are you having hearing difficulties, all the time? Never. Sometimes you're not sure. Something that if you have concerns about your hearing, that you're following up with your provider. Have you experienced any potential injuries like a concussion or a TBI? And that could be something impacting your memory and your 401k for your brain as well. And then the last one talks about level of education. I don't think that degree is necessarily a measurement of education. I think being in kind of a learning state, are you someone that seeks out new activities and new learning opportunities, whether it was in a structured classroom or independently on your own? So thinking in terms of that active engagement. So she has a point scale on this at the back of this that you're welcome to use in the book, but I really want to go through those more to give you guys some talking points for this next breakout room, to give you a chance to think in terms of maybe the areas that you personally need to focus. Again, what you share and how much you share is entirely up to you. And just a reminder, people are sharing something like personal about their medical health, their mental health, remembering to keep that in that space, just to give everybody a chance to feel like it's a space that they can talk about those things. All right, so is there anything anybody'd like me to, Marjorie, I wasn't quite getting on that. I think she really wanted you to think about, she's referring back to the assessing your brain 401k portfolio with those 7 things. I think each one individually is what I got from that. It's like, how much do you put into that? How important is that aspect of it to you? So do you feel like you have enough to chat about between that 401k portfolio and that self-assessment that we kind of walked through? And again, definite caveat, this is one neuroscientist's take on some of this, gathering, researched information, but one person's opinion or recommendations is, should be taken with.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Which page were you saying was related to this discussion?
The 401k portfolio self-assessment was pages 71 to 74. And then page 66 is the assessing your brain 401k portfolio. And those 7 things that I listed in the chat, the ones that you were kind of ranking on a 0 to 100%, how much you put into that. So,
But was there a page in the workbook here?
These 2 were not in there, which
Okay.
is why I was reading through those questions out loud.
Okay.
But they are in the main book. And then the last couple things we'll do are both in the handout. So with the next.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead. Adele, let's give a little bit longer. Let's do 7 minutes for this one to give a chance to talk a little more about that. And you can think of also about some of the risk factors that we talked about. That was kind of covered in those questions, talking about maybe some areas there where you feel like you're most concerned, or ones where you feel like you're hitting it out of the park.
Let me know. You got it.
Perfect. Excellent. So, all right. So how have the breakout rooms been going? I know we haven't had a lot of time to talk back in the group. Is the conversation, the time's been okay? I know there's usually always a need for more time than we allot for those. So I try to expand them when I can. So what I'd like to talk about briefly, her chapter 5.
Linda had a question.
Yeah.
In our breakout room, Ann and I had another box there that said call in user, but nobody was on the line.
Oh,
We
Maybe
couldn't hear
somebody
any.
who was just on the phone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Instead of
But-
zooming.
but they didn't talk.
Okay, so they may have been muted. Okay,
Oh, okay.
excellent. Yeah, if that individual doesn't mind maybe dropping a direct message to me or Adele and letting us know who you are, that would be appreciated. Perfect.
And you know me, Cheryl, I'm always saying we need more time to talk.
I know, and I'm
Carol?
trying. I'm trying to work more in there for you. So,
Carol,
excellent.
Yes.
our group talked about the fact that that 15 item list was not inclusive enough. They needed to add in grief. I think that's a big issue with older
yeah.
people in particular. I know it is for me. And I think everybody can relate to that. So,
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I think that her science is well grounded. I think there is a lot of great resources to this, but it is definitely not the only resource out there. And I think, especially that Lisa Genova book, and there's been a number of books and publications and articles that are coming out. And so like with any of this information I bring to you is do your own research and making sure that you're looking to those resources. And that email that I sent, I like to highlight Medline Plus. Anytime you're talking about anything health and wellness related for yourself, that is a great place to start. It's it'll provide you their direct resources, but it will link you out to research articles. It'll link you out to other resources on any topic you're interested in. And those are good science-based vetted resources. And it's just a really good jumping off point. It can be really easy to go to like WebMD, plug something in, and you may not be able to track down where that information came from. So you always want to be looking for where is that information that I'm reading coming from? What is their source? And we can talk about that in another future one, talking a little bit about how to disseminate information that we're getting online, since so much of it comes to us that way at this time. So the other thing I wanted to just tap into really quick is the concept of neuroplasticity. And I got to weed through. She did a lot of kind of joking at the beginning of this, which wasn't necessarily the right click for me, but the concept that people thinking that we don't grow new brain cells, that is not true, but up until about 1998, they didn't have any evidence that adult brains grew new brain cells. And now they know that that is not true, that we do have the ability to grow new brain cells. And, you know, there's studies to support this, but the process itself is called neurogenesis. And it was discovered in kind of in the last century, and that this Dr. Erickson is who she referred to as was doing the primary study. And they were working with folks that were cancer patients, but that didn't really have anything to do directly with the fact that they were generating new brain cells. So we have since learned that the growth of brain cells isn't a passive phenomenon. You can jump in and exert some control over the process. And as you work through her book, you can learn a little bit more about ways to do that. There are a few ways that cells will rewire themselves. They have increased synaptic density, which means your neurons you've had your whole life can grow more connections between each other. There's something called synaptogenesis. And at the end of these branches, the neuron can also grow more connection points. And that's synaptogenesis. And then there's also something called long-term potentiation. So at the site of a specific synapse, the receiving cell will remold itself so it can be more responsive. So we increase the numbers of synapses, we increase the number of connection points, and we also
Do you know if Anne got her message?
are able to
Should be on the door of her door.
Oh, okay.
On the door.
perfect. That we're also able to grow more receptor sites. So it's good to know that we can do things to help rewire our brains. So what I'd like to spend this last 10 to 15 minutes on is a couple of the activities from the brain bucket list, because we clearly don't have time to move through this whole book. I hope that all of you find useful resources and information in there. Look to the ones that I also linked. That's not an all-inclusive list, but I tried to provide you with some great starting points. And there is always new research coming out. There is a million different people who will tell you different ways you should eat, what you should eat, what you should do to help with your health. Again, important to remember that that's a conversation to have with your healthcare provider based on your personal health needs. And to take any of that information with a grain of salt, look to see where their research comes from and what they're, why they're telling you what they're telling you. So in the handout, and I think it's pretty close to the front, is 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th page talks about taking action on your brain bucket list. And I skipped over where the brain bucket list is. I need to find that. It's towards the back. Let me find that. There. So think about something that you might want to do from the items that we've talked about today, or something that was kind of prompted by the conversations today, something that you might want to do that you want to change. Is there a new activity? Is it a follow-up with a specific medical provider? Is it adding more exercise into your day? There's a variety of different things that you can consider here. So try and think about one brain bucket list item that you might choose to do. Take a few minutes to think about why you want to try this new activity. What are some of the benefits you would see to it? What would you need to get started? When would you plan to try the new activity? So let's see, 12:20. So let's take a couple minutes to jot some notes on that. And then if that one's not striking you, like you're not coming up with a brain bucket list item off the top of your head, the next couple pages talk a little bit and kind of on a similar vein about setting maybe long range or short range goals. So maybe you don't have a very specific item. Maybe you want to talk about a more broad thought process of what would your long range goals be related to your brain health and memory. And that is on the next page. And then breaking that down into anytime you set a bigger long-term goal, what can you do in the interim? Picking something that's maybe a mid-range. So maybe you want to incorporate more physical activity in your life. So that's your long-range goal. What's your mid-range goal? Well, maybe in 6 months, you want to be exercising your body 3 to 4 days a week. And then you can set that short-term goal is how do you get started? So that's just one example. It could be anything. It could be related to diet. It could be related to your social connections, different things that you want to do to help focus on one of these areas that can help improve memory. So it's 12:21. You guys have that handout in front of you. I know we'd love to have a little more time with it, but let's go with maybe 2 more minutes. And then I want to give you guys 7 minutes again in the breakout room to talk a little bit about what you're thinking about for your own personal.
Cheryl,
Yeah.
excuse me, I can't find the page that you're on.
Oh, should be the 5th page in, and it's going to look like this one. Take action on your brain bucket list. And then the goal pages are the 2 pages after that. Oh, and I see a couple of folks talking but not hearing folks.
Okay.
Beverly? Yeah.
What page is that? What page is that in the book? I don't have this handout you're talking about.
Let me find out. Some of
I
them-
just sent it.
Okay,
It's 111 and 112.
thank you.
I think it'd be very helpful if you could say the page that you're referencing.
Yeah, I was grabbing it from the handout. My apologies. Yeah, 111, 112 is where
Thank you.
find the
I don't
brain
have the handout. I have the book.
a little mixture of things today. So Adele, with this one, why don't you go ahead and set it to 6 minutes? And that'll give them a total of 7 and have us returned at 12:30. Go ahead and get that breakout room started. And again, I'll follow up with recording afterwards. And then if you did not get a physical copy of the book and would like one, sending me an email. If you currently have one, you can keep it. There are a few left in a few of the branches, and I'll gather them. And as I receive emails, I'll get those assigned to folks, and then I'll get a few more ordered. So it might take me a week or so to get more books back in, but I will get those for the group here today. So
Are you ready for the room, Cheryl?
yes, please.
Okay.
Evelyn, are you talking? I couldn't hear you. Never mind. Perfect.
Some of the rooms are kind of skimpy, but I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, they seem to be doing all right.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, I mean, it's nice to have 3, but
Yeah.
2 is not bad.
Yeah, we had a couple dropouts, so it was me kind of joggling around the people.
Yeah, I know at least one person had to go early.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get to tell me and sometimes they don't, which is okay. So thank you. I know I feel this was way more of a workbook than I wanted to do for this particular one, but
Oh.
I still think there's some good information in here. And it was, you know, she references actually quite a few studies as well as resources. She was writing it more towards folks that have concerns about their memory versus like Lisa Genova's book was more an introduction to anybody, where this one was more like, why did you come to this book? And it's like, well, because somebody gave it to me.
I know whenever I forget stuff, it's like, oh, this is a panic time.
Yeah.
Or when I walk into my laundry room and I'm looking, thinking, what am I here for? I was going to do something.
Oh,
Yeah,
there's only so much we can retain.
definitely.
Perfect. I'll take a look and see. Oh, the emails have been rolling in.
Well, good.
Yeah, having this today right after the 3-day weekend was a little tough. I keep having like, you have a phone call or you have a, sorry. So what I figured out is that I have to go in and delete all the previous events in order for people to be able to cancel their own registrations.
Oh,
So once it's in the past, there's no real benefit to it staying in advanced. So
yeah.
going in and updating the date range, and then
Mhm.
that's the approach that I'm taking. So it's like,
Yeah, some stuff you just learn on the fly.
yeah, you have to, yeah. Right, where am I plugging that in?
Well, now that you've got your kitchen done, are you going to update anything else in your house?
I'm gonna be doing some ductless heating, and then I need to do my roof this year too.
Oh, boy.
Not as fun, not as much. Though it'll be nice next summer if we have some hot days again to have the
Yeah. What kind of roof are you going for? A metal roof?
I was debating it and then I decided not to. I don't know that one, I sat there and keep watching my neighbor's snow, all that snow we've been getting just sliding off. I'm like,
Mhm. Yeah. That's the best part.
it is pretty entertaining. Especially when he gets up on his roof and I'm like, you crazy man, I couldn't do that.
Oh, no, no.
Yeah, it's not I was talking with Steve, our facilities here. He's
Mhm.
the one that connected me with Dennis, who did my kitchen install. It's
Oh,
his
neat.
buddy that he hikes, the partner that he hikes with all the time.
Mhm.
I shouldn't say hikes, mountain climbs with. They're climbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were talking about it because he's been working on a house over the last several years.
Wow.
But the shingles that I have been on there since the home was built in 95, I think.
Uh-huh.
And I'm nearing, 26 years in, so good time
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
And I figure if I can get 25 out of this one, that'll put me into my 80s. So
Yeah. I know Annie and JD need a new roof, and the snow just did their gutters in on the back of the house and on the garage. It's like, oh, good grief.
it's a little crazy. So,
They had about 1.5 feet up there on Deer Park at their house.
it's been pretty
Yeah,
incredible.
it has.
Yeah. Did they end up with the beautiful sunny weekend too? I had a friend that said the inversion of the weather systems, that they're at about 2,000 feet. And it was just gorgeous above the cloud layer that was blanketing the rest of us. So,
Annie didn't mention that.
yeah. Awesome. All right, everybody, welcome back. So we're at time. Adele, if you're needing to scoot, you're welcome to. If anybody wants to stick around for a few minutes and want to share any thoughts or feedback on today's topic. And as I find other resources, I might do a little digging before I send out the recording and point you guys towards a few more things and a few other books that are out there. And so see if there's, so anyway, so is there anything anybody'd like to share in particular or jump in with at this time?
Cheryl, I'd like to know, is there something next about this topic?
As far as a follow-up for it,
Uh-huh.
I don't have anything planned,
Okay.
but when I send
Okay.
everything else out, like I mentioned, I'm gonna purchase more of the books, so everybody's able to hold on to their own.
Right. Thank you. I just didn't know. And
Yeah, it's hard. It's like, we take a chance to try and dive a little deeper into everything. It's like almost any of these, we could talk for a few months
Right.
on
Right.
easily. And it's the other piece with this being ongoing and the interest that I've had, it doesn't preclude us from returning to a topic down the road. So if you really have something you really want to see us talking about, discussing, maybe you come across a book that you think, is phenomenal on any of these areas, communicate that with me. I'm only planning a quarter, like quarterly roughly, to leave us
Okay.
open to doing more. I have to do a few
Yeah.
things. I have to do a little bit ahead just for publicity reasons, but
Sure, yeah.
but in general, I really want to have this be guided by you guys a little bit more. So I can tell you I'm working with somebody that I think is going to talk about play, the importance of play in our lives.
Oh, yeah.
So
Good.
that one's at the very preliminary beginning kind of development of that, but that's a little bit of where I'm going. We've kind of hit some heavier topics, but before diving into financial stuff, which was next in the Aging Mastery program, I thought it would be fun to talk a little maybe about some creativity things, take a month or two on that, and then return to maybe a little heavier topics. So mix it up, make it a little, it can be tough. Though these conversations are important and good as well. So yeah. Anybody else have anything else they wanted to? Yeah.
One of the things that came up in our breakout room was how the COVID has impacted our social support networks and the places that we can go to get physical activity, et cetera.
Proved really challenging. And then when we have months of torrential rains, which has felt like we've been just nonstop rain for the last 2 months, 2-3 months, it makes it even harder. Yeah, finding ways to build that activity in can be a challenge. And hopefully when Katie comes and talks to us in March, she'll have some other ideas and suggestions. Her book is, I do know that there's a few copies circulating and also digitally, so you can get in there and place a hold on that one from her. She also has some books. She has one focusing on foot care, other topics that may be important or relevant to you. So she is, and she is local. She's out of Sequim, which is great. I'm sure many people are familiar with her name.
And her book's name again, the title?
Could you
It's called,
list that in the chat, please?
Dynamic Aging. Yeah, let me. Dynamic Aging. I don't think I have it sitting here right now.
She has a good website too, that you can sign up for and get a lot of information that she offers free, exercises and stuff like that.
Do you know the name of it or how? I didn't know her name even.
Let me see if I can find it.
Her book, well, her website is Nutritional Movement or Nutrition.
Thank you.
Nutritious Movement. Here, I'll drop the link in real quick. The other thing, I went ahead and scheduled the 1.5 hours for the March 1st date, and I give the presenters an hour. I thought I'd take that other 30 minutes to talk a little bit about cooking for 1 or 2 people. Most of us, our households have gotten smaller. And so I thought I'd take a few minutes and maybe highlight a few great cookbooks and resources and have a little fun with that last section. So if you have anything on that topic that you're pretty excited about, maybe you figured out how to meal prep and you cook a few times a month, or you have any sort of tips or tricks or cookbooks that you particularly like or websites, a chance to kind of share in that space as well.
I just heard this morning about a meal service called Mom's Meals that's supposed to be local, but I'm not sure if it's local or it's ship in. Meals on Wheels is just, I don't think, very tasty, or and they cannot accommodate dietary concerns. And so I don't really know that the nutrition is very high.
Yes.
So that might be something to check out. I haven't checked it out myself yet, but
Gotta go.
What was that again? Mom's what?
Mom's Meals.
Thank you.
I'll see if I can.